in North Queensland, in most of Queensland, one of our big challenges is trying to get legumes into grass pastures. A lot of our pastures are native, and in those land types, we run into a bit of a wall during the dry season where we run out of protein.
If you've got a paddock you can spell over the wet, as you get in, disturb the soil is the best way, and it's only got to be an inch deep. But yeah, the biggest thing is to keep the stock off it for the first 12 months, for the first 6 months after the wet. And if it's dried out, in this country it's around June, you can use that paddock again. Then if you can spell it the following wet, then yeah, because yeah, stylos will only grow in the first wet. It might be only 5 mil high. You mightn't even see it there, but there could be a great strike. But yeah, whether you think it's there or not, it usually does strike if you can keep the cattle numbers off it. You just spell it for 2 years straight, the grass just gets too high and rank, and the sunlight will not hit the stylo little plant to give it a growth spurt.
He said about broadcasting stylo from a plain Seca stylo mainly in the early 2000s, so around 2002, 2003. He didn't do anything special, just spread it towards the end of the dry season, didn't burn or anything like that. Usually by that time of year there's not much cover and stuff anyway, so the seed was there waiting for the first storms. As you can see from the photos and whatnot, we've got a good population of stylos here now, some 25 years later or so.
So one of the things that we're trying to do here is use what we call a production paddock approach. That's a fairly small, accessible part of your property where you would develop that using legumes, getting them into your pastures so that you can improve the amount of protein and energy over the dry season, and so that you can use the amount of grass that you've got available to you. Now looking around, you can see it's mainly grader grass and Indian couch, and they really do lose their quality in the dry season. So the traditional approach to getting legumes into this country has been to simply burn at the end of the dry season after you've had your first storm, over-sow that seed before that grass comes away, and hope for the best. We've also been using this approach, you can see behind me, using cultivated legume strips. Now the advantage of this kind of approach is that we can work between the trees. We can also do this on cultivated land too, and we've done a number of trials over recent years to work out which methods work best. Now the big problem that we have here is very competitive grass. So we've got a small seed like a stylo, or even we've got a butterfly pea, which is the largest seed. They face immense amounts of competition when it comes to germination. We've also got a very small opportunity in which to get these things up and running. So our broad approach here is to graze heavily and well during the dry season to remove as much material as we can. We cultivated after first storms, where we could get a good reliable cultivation and see where we were going. Undertaken a secondary cultivation closer to planting time. Tested our seed, made sure that we had a high proportion of seed which was ready to germinate. Sprayed out any grasses coming up that were going to act as competition for our seedlings, and then broadcast with a simple spinner on a quad bike, and then rolled afterwards. And as you can see here, the result has been outstanding. This material here is only 3 months old now. It's begun to, it's sort of knee high. It's flowering, and we anticipate that we'll be into production and grazing this within about a month's time. And the idea with that grazing then is to take some of the seeds that we've got here that are developing here, and for those to be spread by the animals throughout this paddock. Roughly we have about 12% of this paddock established into legume strips, and we think that'll be enough to really lift the productivity, particularly as the stylo spreads throughout the paddock over time. So by using this method here, we're trying to get in production as quickly as we can. We anticipate that we'll get a sort of a 1/2 to 3/4 level of grazing within this paddock in the first year after sowing, and thereafter we should be into full production from then on.
Using lick and that is putting the seed into the lick and then the animals ingesting the lick and spreading it out through their dung. It is a tool. And as I said, we've got a lot of tools out there, so it is an important tool, but probably in a lot of cases I wouldn't recommend it as your initial startup point. I would initiate it as a continual investment over years, because it's only small numbers of seed, and what you want to do is to get those key populations going to get that early graze on, to get that seed spreads.
You can put it in your lick if you feed a lot of lick. You can put a percentage, a couple of percent, down whatever stylo. A property to the east of Georgetown, that's all he's ever done, and 20 years ago there wasn't a plant there. Within 5 to 6 years you could see an odd plant. Then 10 to 12 years later, the whole joint, you don't matter where you fall out of it, a plain, a 300 square mile plain, and you will see a stylo plant.
See it as a tool that is useful in continuing distribution and getting, like you do with your animals, getting new genetics into your pastures.